I love this move for LSU. Matt Moscona of Locked On LSU is here to talk about AJ Haulcy coming over from Houston, who at the time of his departure from the portal, Matt, top player available per 24/7. Now, plenty of guys had left previously, but when you look at the lineup of defensive backs that have moved in the transfer portal this spring cycle, I'd have a hard time putting him outside the top 5.
And if you include adding DJ Pickett, who is the number one cornerback in the country that they added in the freshman class. Yeah, I mean, Spencer LSU defensively was bad. Safety play was by far the biggest liability on the team. I don't know if you look at Pro Football Focus. I always say to my audience, it's a metric. It's not the metric. It's just something to consider. But the highest graded safety was Sage Ryan at a 69. The lowest was one of the starters they had who was graded out about like a 50. They were terrible. They were just terrible at safety. They had to improve. They added Tamarcus Cooley from NC State in the first portal window, and now they've added AJ Haulcy, two all-conference caliber players from their previous stops, and you just dramatically improved what was the worst position on your defense.
Yeah, and when I look at PFF, Matt, and for those who don't know, 70 is a good player. 80 is a great player. If you have a grade of 90, which is easier to get at quarterback. If you have a grade of 90 at any spot, you are about to get drafted in the first round in all likelihood. So for LSU to not have had anyone at safety that PFF said this is a good player, like slightly above average but not all conference caliber, it makes a lot of sense why they'd go out and add these sorts of guys.
And by the way, the highest graded safety was Sage Ryan, who now plays for Ole Miss. Ole Miss people might kind of tout that. LSU fans were kind of glad to see him go. I'm not trying to slight Sage. I think he played hard throughout his time. He showed up as a 5-star, and it just never really materialized here. Maybe change the scenery will be good for him, but it does illustrate just how bad they were at that position a year ago.
Yeah, I like Haulcy. Had a really good season at Houston this past year, and we'll get to him more in just a moment. But a big picture, Matt, something that I always appreciate that sounds really simple, but it just isn't as obvious to everyone as it should be in college football. When you've got a weakness, clear and identifiable, go out and attack it in the offseason as hard as you possibly can. Not everywhere does this. And the best example is USC. Ironic, we're talking about LSU because those two programs have a lot in common in the last couple of years with their coaching profile, and they played each other last year, of course. But USC came in year one under Lincoln Riley and bursts on the scene with Caleb Williams. He wins the Heisman. They go 11-1, but their defense lets them down. They collapse against Tulane. And then the next year, they just kind of stood around. They sat on their hands, status quo. Let's just and everyone was looking around going, wait a minute. San Jose State came into the Coliseum and was moving the football. You got to go out and do something here. And that's what I appreciate about what Brian Kelly's done in the last couple cycles is, you know what? I need a new defensive quarter. He goes and gets Blake Baker from Missouri. You know what? It was better, but we still need to improve. Let's go out and attack and find guys that can help us right here, right now. Let's attack it in the recruiting cycle. I just appreciate places, no matter the level, whether it's FCS or the SEC, I think that's a really great way to go about it because you don't always, sometimes coaches can get stuck in their ways, I think, and say, no, we're good with the guys we got. Like, that's not the way Brian Kelly's approaching this.
Well, I think it's also been an evolution since he's been in Baton Rouge. His first year, remember, he kind of inherited a mess where they were really low on numbers. They took 15 transfers. And then the second year, they took 13. And last year, they took 9. And Spencer, they were 9 that were not impactful. And you went 8-4. And I think as a result of that, they realized, oh no, not only do we have to go heavier in the portal, but impactful portal additions. And so they've added 18 transfer portal additions between the December and spring periods here. So I think you're right in saying that Kelly has evolved, but it takes some degree of being able to put your pride aside, some self-awareness to realize maybe the way you were going about it wasn't the right way. I mean, I think we're all learning, right? I mean, we're learning in this NIL portal 12-team college football playoff era what it takes to win. And Ohio State just showed you. Go ham in the portal, build the best roster possible, and play your best football in December, January, and try to win a championship.
Yeah, let's talk about Haulcy now. What do you like about him at that safety spot?
As a 3-year starter, he's got over 200 tackles, man. It's closer to 250 tackles in 3 years. For context, Jordan Gilbert, who's LSU's most experienced safety returning, has played the same number of games as Haulcy with about half as many tackles. He also led the Big 12 in interceptions last year. So you're talking about a guy that can play free or strong, so he can be flexible within the defense wherever you need him. But like, dude, I love the attitude, man. His Twitter handle is Mr. Gimme That. Like, that's his nickname. I mean, kind of like, if you want a DB, you got to be cocky and you got to have a short memory, and he seems to have it. I've never met him, haven't talked to him. I mean, he was just on campus this past Sunday for his visit and committed on his visit. But man, if you need someone who can cover, he can do it. You need someone who can tackle, he can do it. You need someone with attitude, he's got it. I mean, it's an immediate improvement from literally anything you got.
Yeah, seems like he's 100% locked into a starting spot, not just a heavy rotation role.
Yeah, I think both safeties. Throw Marcus Cooley in there, who came in from NC State, and he was an all-conference caliber player at NC State this past year. Started his career went Maryland, NC State, now LSU. But both of those guys are. There's some, Spencer, I've heard this from some LSU fans, because LSU has recruited well at that position. For example, Deshaun Spears is a rising sophomore who was a 5-star by some services, and he played a lot at the beginning, the first month of his freshman year, and that his snap count really decreased in the second half of the season. And maybe he has a big explosive sophomore year, but I think the key is for Brian Kelly, he didn't need to take the risk that a player like that doesn't take the big step, because you can go in the portal and add a guy. And look, if Deshaun Spears steps up and has a monster sophomore year, awesome, great. But if not, I mean, you've got two proven starters that are ready made. And I think snap one, game one against Clemson, that Haulcy and Cooley are both going to be starting at safety for LSU.
I covered DJ Pickett's recruitment a lot coming out of high school. Is he someone who you think steps in and starts right away? Defensive back, amongst all the positions, not the hardest. I don't know about the easiest necessarily, but nothing's ever easy. It's not the hardest spot or the least improbable spot to have a true freshman come in and play right away. Do you think that's, a core three guys right there of LSU secondary?
So I think Pickett he'll play. He might even be on the field at some point during the first defensive series of the year. But they added Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech. And by the way, Pickett was here for bowl practices as well. So he went through the bowl practices before the game against Baylor, and he went through spring. So by the time they actually play a game, he's going to have been here darn near a year. And he looks the part, man. You can see why a guy like that's a 5-star. I mean, he's 6'4", he's a freaking pterodactyl. He's awesome. But they got Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech, and Mansour Delane is by a mile the best cornerback they have right now. I mean, you don't have to be a scout. You can go watch practice and go, oh, 4 looks different. He's pretty good, right, at this thing. So he'll start. I think Ashton Stamps, who will be going into his junior year as a 3-year starter, will be the other starting cornerback when they start the season. That could evolve as the season goes along, and I fully expect Pickett's going to play a massive role in the secondary, probably not from jump.